Assalamu alaikum, dear believers. I'm Imam Tariq Al-Amin, resident Imam of Masjid Al-Taqwa, and on behalf of the Taleem Committee, including Dr. Aisha Al-Amin, chaired by Dr. Aisha Al-Amin, members Dr. Gloria Bashir and Dr. Lionel Allen Jr. We welcome you to this Sunday's Taleem, where we will be speaking about the power and components of intention, inshallah. We'll begin with the Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. I want to begin this discussion about the components and the power of intention, and really talking about which will eventually bring us to the skill of intention and the process of intention. And I want to begin with Allah's words, on this. He reminds us in the 18th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, which we often refer to. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he advised the believer to read this on the day of Jummah. And this is from the 23rd and 24th ayah. I'm sorry? Was somebody trying to add something? Okay. All right, and I will ask, please do keep your mics muted. We don't want to have to do too much editing. So from the 23rd and the 24th ayat, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ إِذَا نَسِيتَ وَقُلْ عَسَىٰ أَن يَهْدِيَنِي Rabbi li aqraba min hadha rashada. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. That is, nor say of anything, I shall be sure to do so and so tomorrow, without adding, so please Allah, inshallah, and call thy Lord to mind when thou forgettest, and say, I hope that my Lord will guide me ever closer, even than this, to the right road. Now, well, I'll follow that up with a hadith. This is narrated on the authority of Amir al-Mu'min, which the leader of the believers, Abu Hafs Umar bin al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, I heard the messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, say, actions are according to intentions, and everyone will get what was intended. Whoever migrates with an intention for Allah and his messenger, the migration will be for the sake of Allah and his messenger. And whoever migrates for worldly gain or to marry a woman, then his migration will be for the sake of whatever he migrated for. This is related by Bukhari and Muslim. So we get just within these two references, we get, first of all, that our intentions have to be and should always be situated within an awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And the second thing is that we understand that our intentions are also based on, they're based on values. They're based on, or our actions, which are rooted in our intentions, they're based on our values. They're based on identities that we establish, right? They refer us back. Actually, we think about this for those who were present for this Friday's khutbah. They remind us of the soil, if you will, of our intentions, right? How our intentions are formulated. And there are two ways that our intentions come about. Our intentions, they come about first, on a base level, they come about through our needs, the immediate needs we have, right? Whether we're talking about our need for food, our need for the need for companionship, the need for matter of fact, that's not a base one. I would say the need for food, for sleep, right? Those are things that they resonate. We recognize those things within ourselves, and they move us to act, to resolve those needs, to resolve the awareness of hunger. You're hungry, you need to go find something to eat, right? You're sleepy, you want to pause and you want to lay down, and you're tired or fatigued, you want to lay down and you want to go to sleep. All right, those are base needs, right? And they really have very little to do with distinguishing us, or they don't distinguish us very much from any other sentient being, right? From any other mammalian life, on the planet, in creation. Everything has its cycles of rest. Everything has its need for food, for its provision, and it acts to satisfy those needs. So there's nothing really remarkable in the actions that come from those particular needs, right? But there's also the higher need, and the higher needs are represented best, I think. They refer to the information that we have been given, and that information comes about in a few different sources. That information can come about through models, and it can come about through guidance. And sometimes we can say that models actually they actually do provide guidance. Now, whether that guidance is in accordance with what Allah has dictated, what Allah has given to us, well, that's a different conversation. That's not to say that those models are in alignment with that, but our models nonetheless do have an impact on our identities. They have an impact on the value systems that we create. They are part of the soil that forms us, and as such, they have an impact on us, right? So we form we form values, and we form those values move us to desire certain things. So they inform our intentions. Now, guidance on another level. Guidance, we can actually look at Surah Rahman. The first three ayat actually speak to the importance of the information. All right, speaks to information. Beginning, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran khalaqa al-insan. Allah most gracious, it is He who taught the Quran. He has created man. There's a sequence here. We're recognizing, number one, Allah within this beautiful attribute of Rahman, Rahim, once again, connecting it back to the womb, that Allah is the one who has taught the Quran, and from the Quran, He has created man, or after the Quran, right? So the Quran itself is a fundamental part of it is the fundamental aspect of our evolution, of our identity, right? And from that, He has created man, right? From that teaching. So when we think about models and we think about guidance, then this information allows us to make a comparison between the models, whether they be parents, family members, teachers, folks that society has deemed to be successful or not. And then we can compare that. We can look at those models in comparison with, or in compliance with, the guidance of the Quran that Allah has given to us, right? So we take this back once again. We take this back to the opening ayat, which is, nor say of anything I shall be sure to do so and so tomorrow, without adding, so please Allah. And call thy Lord to mind when thou forgettest, and say that my Lord, and I hope that my Lord will guide me ever closer, even than this, to the right road. So there, once again, Allah's mercy is present even in our forgetfulness, when we are thinking about our intentions. When we say, I'm going to do this and that, I plan to be at this particular point, I plan to lose this or find this or whatever it is, Allah has ordered for us to keep our awareness of Him center to the process of our of intentions. Now, we don't always think about the process of intention. We simply think about making the intention. So the process of intention actually begins with the remembrance of Allah, right? That's the first part of that process. And in order to be able to execute any process, this requires an element of skill. And we don't always think about making intentions as a skill, but it is actually, it actually is when we think about the definition of what a skill actually is, right? A skill is it's the learned ability to perform an action with determined results, with good execution, right? And this is often temporal, right? Which means that it's usually within a given amount of time, using a particular amount of energy or both, right? If we think about watching a master carpenter, most of us could, if you give us a couple of 2x4s and a saw and some nails, we could probably make, we could make a box, like we could make a shelf. But it might take the individual who is not used to using those tools or is not used to working with those materials. It could take some a lot longer than others. And then on top of that, it could also take, some might look like, it might look like this is the work of a 5-year-old. Or we should say that this looks like the work of a novice, and it would actually be correct. And that's because skill, right? It's not just about performing the action, but it's also about the end result, right? So moving, it's the desired intent behind the action, right? There's a model, there's an idea in mind when that action has been engaged in. So going back to the Hajj, right? The idea of there were some who looked at the pilgrimage without the proper information, without the proper awareness, and their intent on going into the Hajj was for exactly what the Hadith mentions. They were there to find a bride, right? They were there to make a business connection. They were there for something that had nothing to do, right? It had nothing to do with the true intention of the Hajj. Right. And so that is the reward they get for that particular migration. So our awareness, our ability to understand, or at least to conceptualize of an outcome is going to play a huge part in the success of our intentions. It's going to play a huge part in the formation of our intentions. So the skill that we're bringing up, the skill is being intentionally conscious and mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It doesn't sound like it's a skill, but it's a skill. When we think about what is the desired result. The desired result is that whatever we endeavor upon is that it is something that Allah is approving of.
18. How about you? Okay.
So we ask.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I'm going to pause 1 second. There you go. All right. So the desired result is what we look at, right? We look at not just what we want to do, but we think about why we want to do it. So that's why that hadith, that's one of its important applications for us. It recognizes that people do things for different reasons. The highest reason, of course, is going to be that we are pleasing to Allah, that we are being obedient to Allah. And we know that that has the greatest outcome for us. So move on to guidance once again. So Allah, when he says that he has created the Quran and created man, I think this is a great opportunity for us to think about how the Quran informs our intentions. How much is the Quran a part of the soil of our thinking, the soil of our life, of our aspirations? How deeply ingrained is the Quran as a guide for us? And do we use it as a comparison? Because one of the things, brothers and sisters, that we have to look at, we have to understand that society has its own it has its own set of values, and these are often fabricated. And to make another reference to the idea of the soil, the soil, the soil becomes depleted. It becomes depleted without mindfulness, without awareness of reflection on, with reflection on Allah's word, right? That soil, that intellectual, that spiritual soil becomes depleted. And when the soil becomes depleted, then the actions and the values, all of everything that comes from it is depleted. It's watered down. Instead of us being moved towards the higher purpose, instead of us thinking about the larger at stake, we find ourselves caught and lost in the smaller things that really, they have no great benefit for us. They don't really take anything from us. They don't add anything to us. So once again, we go back to this idea of mindfulness being a part of the skill that we want to develop in our intentions. And the second thing, when I said, I talked about there being two avenues for us to formulate our intentions, or models and guidance. The Quran allows us to be able to look at the models that we have and determine if they are in comportment with the guidance that we have been given. And then once we're able to make that distinction, we're able to come to the conclusion that what we have in front of us is worthy of emulating or not. Then we're able to, if we want to model ourselves after any particular, characteristic, or if there's a particular, effort that's taking place, we say, I want to also do this as well. Then we understand that that's well-founded. That's within accordance with the guidance that Allah has given us. And of course, it goes without saying that the best model, when we talk about the character model, we know the best model is our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So that brings us to a logical conclusion that it is not only important for us to delve into and to have a greater appreciation and relationship with the Quran in formulating our values and our identity, and thus our actions and our intentions. It's also important for us to have an awareness of the life and the example, the character example, the situations that our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam encountered, right? As once again, as a model of what that guidance looks like when it's in absolute comportment with the guidance that Allah has given us. And we've heard many times before, we know Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that when she was asked about the Prophet, peace and praise be upon him, she said that he was a Quran walking, right? He was the Quran walking, right? He was the embodiment of its principles. He was the embodiment of the embodiment of its mercy. And once, and I think connecting that back to the beginning ayats of Rahman, the most gracious, the most merciful, right? He's taught the Quran, and he has created man. So mercy, I think that there is something to be said as a part of our ability to formulate intention, our ability to conceive of ourselves. This is something that should be, hopefully, that is present in any intentions that we make, right? So we're into this new year, and we're thinking about ways that we can become we can become better, that we can be more in alignment with the model, the character model that Allah has given us in the Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, but also how we can also emulate those models that we have been given, even more recently, models of community that have made establishments and strides due to their understanding of the big picture, right? And the migration that Allah speaks of, that is referenced in the Hadith, is also for us to be understood as a migration of mentality, right? So when the Imam Muhammad, may Allah have mercy on him and grant him a high station in paradise, when he referred to us as a new people, we understood that it was not just about our it was not a phenotypical thing. It wasn't about how we looked, right? It was about the experiences that had shaped us. It was about the place and time that Allah had put us, and the soil that He pulled us up out of, right? So we understood that the new people that we had been designated as was also a sign of, or a reference to, kind of a nod to, if you will, to a migration, right? There's a migration in thinking. There's a migration to values. There's a migration that took us from concerns simply of the individual, but a migration that brought us to a collective understanding, right? We responded to this message. We responded to the call of Islam because we understood that we were moving from the small needs, right? The needs of immediacy that every animal has, and every animal responds to. And we migrated to a model of thinking that distinguishes us, right? That elevates us, that allows us to be and I know in one of Imam's talks, he talked about the cosmic man, right? The human being who is aware of not only his or her individual circumstances, but from a universal standpoint, the ability for act of us going out seeking knowledge that's rooted in the first knowledge and guidance that Allah has given us within the Quran, but taking that out onto broader scopes, broader levels, and then using that for the advancement of our for humanity as a collective, right? So there's a lot of there's a blessing in that Allah has given us this, that He's given us His guidance, but that He has also allowed us to understand the migration to a higher level thinking, and in our awareness of it, that allows us to aspire to greater to greater levels. That allows us to our intentions to be geared towards broader outcomes, right? Elevated outcomes, right? Because the intention is never divorced from an outcome. Right, so it's kind of like the reverse engineering, not looking at the thing as it is, but looking at what went into making that thing. Right, so that's a part of that's one of the components of the intention, and the true power of the intention. It goes back to us not formulating intentions, not stating an intention or going after anything, acting on it without first referencing, without taking that back to Allah. And that means taking it back to the book, the guidance that He has given us, taking it to the models that Allah has given us, and also once again using that as a repetitive skill, that mindfulness. I want to add another, I guess, a level or layer of skill that's regarded within intention. I said first was mindfulness and reflection, right? So I guess it's two layers to it, right? One is the mindfulness of Allah, and the other is the reflection within ourselves, right? So I think our ability to execute both of those things, it allows for us to make sure that we're not going to be people who establish intentions. Yo, give me a second. I'm trying to.
And I'm sure I need to share some of those sausage with you.
I'm looking through here to see who I'm trying to mute. Huh? I don't see it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to just the ending, and then we'll open up for any comments. And that is to stay focused on the connection that Allah has given us between the teaching of the Quran and then the creation of man, right? So this tells us that there's something about education that is fundamentally important, and is tied to us existing as the creation that Allah has intended for us. Very, very similar to the beginning of Alaq, right? Ikra, Ikra, right? Read, right? In the name of your Lord who's created, right? Taught man that which you knew not, and taught the use of the pen. So an uneducated individual, has a lot of difficulty. There's very little separation between the uneducated man and the animal, right? Then the base creation. Our distinction comes in our commitment to education. So when we think about our intentions, how that relates to our intentions, we should be mindful that our intentions are going to be, we should be examining our own intentions and thinking about that in terms of our education, and how, what we know about what we want, because there are times that we intend for things, we want things, but without really understanding what it means to have those things, right? Everybody wants to be rich, and there's nothing wrong with money, but when you think about the end result of, well, what would you do with that, or what does that mean for you in this particular space and time? People want things without necessarily understanding the reality of those things, right? So I think, and of course that can go a couple of different ways, because we need more rich people, right? We don't want to we don't want to throw it out there. We're not trying to be a community of poor folks, but we do want to be a community that is representative of that higher level thinking, right? That is educated, that is asking questions, and that is, when we plan for something, we are already thinking about what it means to be in that particular position. So sometimes we're not actually going to have models, physical models, that represent what we want to see, right? We'll have an idea, but we won't have an actual model of what we want to see, right? We're striving to be a model community. And in that, and in stating that and articulating that want, there's also the responsibility for us to think on a much broader level as to what it means. What would the responsibility of the model community be? How would we act? What would we do? Or what do we do when we have actually achieved that? Or who is, how would even define when we have achieved that, right? What's the litmus test, for us, in achieving that? So I want to open up and close my remarks by saying that Allah has indeed been merciful to us in allowing for us to conceptualize of ourselves. Allah has been merciful to us in giving us revelation and giving us a model of what it means to be, to live in accordance with that revelation, right? To live that, to exemplify it. And he's also given us a mercy in allowing us, right? He has allowed us to act of our own free will, but he has encouraged us to never, not encouraged, but he has told us, don't act without thinking about, or do not intend without referring back to the Lord, to the one who has created you, right? So as long as we do that and we continue to build the skill of mindfulness, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah, the objects, the goals that we seek, Allah will bless us to achieve those things, and we will do so with the broader picture in mind, inshallah. So I want to open up for any comments, any ideas on the intentions. Dr. Gloria.
Assalamu alaikum and happy new year to all.
Like my salam.
I am just so intrigued about the idea of intention and how to really cultivate that, because intention, you know, a lot of people don't really realize, myself included sometimes, that you have to be intentional about your intention, right? And, you know, we do so many things haphazardly. We do so many things that, for lack of a better phrase, that we do, you know, just comes second nature. But really taking the time to cultivating that intention, right? As you are walking your walk. And so my question to you is, aside from some of the things that you laid out, and I am certainly no Islamic scholar by a long shot, but you know, are there any hadiths or ayats that you can direct us to help us to really dive deeper into cultivating that intention?
That's a great. I appreciate. First of all, I appreciate your observation, Dr. Gloria, about that we sometimes just into intentions just kind of willy-nilly, just as a force of habit. But with regard to references, whether they be Quran or Hadith, I would say, as a fellow student, that I think the Quran is replete with them, and it depends. A lot of these things depend upon the perspective that we have when Allah says Allah is the Lord, cherished, sustainer of all the worlds, right? Or Allah is Allah is Allah who created the heavens and the earth. That Allah sits on the, it mentions, the Ayatul Kursi, right? We get this idea, this understanding of Allah being absolutely independent and above everything. And if we think of ourselves, and also when we think of ayats, the prayers, when the prayers are made to be joined with the righteous, right, on the day of judgment, inshallah, right, when they depart this life. When we think about these particular things, there are, I think, for the observant individual, I think that formulates intention, right? The intention is, I want to be pleasing to Allah. So the Lord, cherisher, sustainer of the world, the one who is unlike anything else, right? I want to be raised up, not just raised up, but I want to be joined with the righteous. I want to be of those who have no fear on the day of reckoning. I want to be recipient of Allah's soothing mercy, right? You think about Prophet Yaqub, right? I think the Quran is replete with references that if we consider them, we think about ourselves being the recipient of that kind of mercy. We think about ourselves being, like I said, raised up with the assurance of peace. We think about being recipients of Allah's mercy as opposed to His wrath, and that shapes that gives us a world view, a view of ourselves and our comings and our goings, where we want to be the best version of ourselves, right, in accordance with the will of Allah. So I say that to simply say that our perspective, just on what we read on a regular basis, I think should shape, have some influence on our intentions, right? But the most direct ones, I think, were, I just love that hadith, the one that I referenced, actions are according to intentions. Everyone will get what was intended, right? Whatever you go into. So, I mean, there are quite a few. I would simply, my advice would be to just be mindful of the perspective that we hold when we go into the Quran, when we go into hadith, So I hope that was of some benefit.
Yes. Thank you. The other, my other question, and maybe I'm speaking too much about myself,
No.
but as I strive, I won't put this on the audience, but as I strive to better myself, right, to be more intentional about Salat, right, and not. I remember overhearing your wife, Dr. Aisha, say one time, it was time for Salat. And she said, Allah waits for no one. And she said it in this very, very, kind of hallowed voice. Allah waits for no one. And that stuck with me because in these busy times and these highly, highly, highly stressful times, right? It is so easy to get caught up in other things. And it's like, well, I'm gonna make my salad. I don't make salad. Then before you know it, you're out the door. You didn't make the salad, right? So, just I guess ways to enlighten your heart more, to be in tune with your obligations as a Muslim, completing your salat in a timely manner. And Lord knows that is a personal problem that I'm struggling with.
I think we all have our moments.
But just any insight or suggestions, because it's so difficult, it's so hard. You're trying, and I know a lot judges us by our intentions. I know, but you don't want to abuse that.
Right. Yeah, I definitely understand that. I'm sorry, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No. I just wanted to just say that you don't want to abuse those those blessings.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I would say that we all struggle in different ways. And sometimes the struggles they rotate. But in terms of Aisha's statement, Allah waits for no one. We think about that. That's certainly absolutely true. We think about when Allah says, I am as my servant thinks of me, sees me. And we know how many attributes we have for Allah, right? I mean, different qualities, the way that we can engage with Allah. I think it's important for us to always remember, that Allah's mercy outweighs his wrath, right? It says Allah has inscribed the rule of mercy for himself. And that because Allah engaged with us with mercy, we should be merciful to ourselves within our progression. Discipline and skill, these things, or the development of skill is related to the discipline, right? The longer we practice a thing, the better we get at it, right? The easier it comes to us. And there's something to be said for, Islam, this religion, this is a team sport. Yes, you can practice by yourself to a degree, right? Allah knows best about the conditions that we're in. Sometimes we don't have the benefit of having other Muslims around us, but we're in a place in time now, at least right now, where we are able to come together, and we don't have to be in the same room, right? Just this platform in and of itself is a testimony to that. So I say to the act of being able to, especially when it comes to Salat, the act of being able, or the ability to utilize the community resource, whether it's a spouse, whether you're talking about your spouse, your friend, whomever, to help each other to become more accountable, right? So one of the worst things that we can do, and I'm sure many of us have seen this happen, a group of Muslims are together, prayer comes in, we'll keep talking, and then everybody leaves. We didn't stop for prayer, right? As a community, we should see that as an opportunity, right, to hold each other up. But unfortunately, there are times when, and once again, being mindful of Allah's grace and mercy to us, the mercy is in it coming back to mind, and that if we come to that situation again, we don't let that opportunity go by, right? But there are times where, you know, it's happened. I've been there, I've seen it, you know, I've been a part of it myself. And then thought later on, man, you know, how do we let this happen? And we let it happen because either I didn't say anything, somebody didn't say anything, you know, we have to support each other. We have to, as the ayat says, right? Those that model community, it supports, you know, what is good, right? We think about Surah Al-Asr, the mutual teaching of faith, right? The mutual engagement of faith, the promotion of righteousness, you know, of good deeds. So we become better as individuals as we are better as community. All right. So our task, one of our tasks, is to encourage one another. So those things like salat, when you're with somebody else, it makes it that much easier to do that. And then other times when you have to treat yourself as the object and say, okay, look, you got to go do this, right? So may Allah make it easier for us, but that's one of those skills. If we practice it, the more we practice it, the easier it gets. So it's not, you know, the world's not going to get any less enticing. The stuff we're doing is not going to become any less important. But if we develop that skill, that, you know, apply that discipline, it becomes easier for us to do. So it's just a matter of repetition, I think, for us, and not allowing that to be broken. So hope that wasn't too verbose. If there's anybody else have any other comments, or Sister Dr. Gloria, feel free.
No, you did an excellent job. I thank you for that. It's as I said, I don't want to speak too much about my own flaws and faults, but you know, those are very, very mindful words, right? So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And no worries about the disruption, dear sister. We keep it moving. So alhamdulillah, I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to share something from the chat. It says, I appreciate the reminder about being intentional, your commitments about soil, your comments about soil. I'm now thinking of our actions like plants. Actions which are not rooted in the soil of intention are like weeds, popping up in places where they are unwanted and choking off that which is most desirable. The flower is the plant, etc. I think that's a very, yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's right on point. So, yeah, once again, we have a lot to gain from the observation and creation. Imam Rabani?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, brother man, for that reminder.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
But I don't know if you mentioned the hadith of the Prophet, prayers and peace be upon him, concerning the prayer and the niyyah.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't. Please do.
Yeah, it was one of the traditions, one of the hadith, he said that the key to prayer was niyyah, was intention.
Yeah.
No, he said the key to prayer was wudu.
Then
Ablution.
And wudu is based on intention.
And the key to wudu is intention.
Yes.
So that, I think, it kind of invites us to look inwardly, individually, to see what is it we're praying for. How are we responding to that relationship with Allah? You know, the outward form, everyone, all, you know, belief systems have some outward form, but it's uniquely here, I think, with the Prophet's words, prayers and peace, that he's pointing to something inwardly, because everyone's praying over the centuries, all the prophets, all the communities, religious communities. But the Prophet comes at the end of that progression, and now he's pointing to something that will lead us to this kind of modern time where everything is outward appearance.
Mm.
Everything is assessed or evaluated on some external qualities. But what the prophet left with us, and in the prayer, like he mentioned, in the matters are judged by, that's revelation from God, that matters are going to be judged by intentions. Of course, that vivid model, that very vivid model of the migration to Medina, that leaves a really, we see the stage there, right? We see the actors, we see the whole circumstances that challenges that we can, like you said, can be a model for today in the current life. But I think the prophet, when he said the key to the ablution is the intention, we haven't even got to the prayer yet. We're just getting ourselves before. So we're doing something consciously to our bodies.
Yeah.
What the mind of the prophet is saying, in my opinion, in my view, is saying that there's something internally that has to go along with that. That's most precious. Yeah, just comment.
Alhamdulillah. Right on time, you ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, there's a purification that goes before the prostration. And before the purification is an intention as to why you're actually even doing this. So yeah, that's a beautiful reminder, for us when we think about our intentions. And I think and you could even extend maybe the thinking to say that beyond the prayer, because we said that everything has the potential to be, if we're conscious of Allah, that everything has the potential to embody some element of worship, right? Because if we're trying our best to be mindful of Allah, then it does not replace the salat, but it can be an act of worship, which means that even in those things that we want to enter them in a purified state, that we don't do, there's nothing that we do where we don't go into it. And once again, before the purification, there's an intention that we don't go into anything without the intent, without being purified, and then there's the performance. So I think there's a wonderful connection for us. We think about what it means to elevate the moral consciousness and the culture, the salat, our approach to it that we have been given. It allows a very broad application that actually raises the moral environment. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful, and I think that's the beauty of this deen. That's the beauty of these statements, is that we don't keep them cordoned off and it's just a part of our religious life. We understand that our deen is a way of life that encompasses everything. So the benefits that we get from salat, the approach that we take towards salat, the components of it are elements and a process that we can apply to every facet of our life. Amen. Oh, okay. I thought I saw you light up for a minute.
I did have a thought.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
You gave me the thought, just the Quranic verse that every creature knows its mode of prayer and prayer.
Yep. Brother Rock.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm in my car, so I didn't want to make too much noise.
Walaikum assalam.
But I was listening to the comments that were made, and just recently, I was reading some commentary by Imam Muhammad on the Salat itself, and he points out that there is no verb, no action, no verb introduced in Surah Al-Fatiha until the 5th ayat. We first acknowledge, we first acknowledge Allah and who it is that we're making salat to, and after the first 4 ayat, then in the 5th ayat, we are asking for something, because the first, once we acknowledge who we're praying to, then your nature will cause you to want to worship that that power, that deity, that God, Allah, that you've called on. And that takes place in the first 4 ayat. And then the 5th ayat, you're asking for something, but you've been pulled in that direction by the first 4 acknowledgments that you've made as a human being. And then it goes on from there. And I thought that was very instructive, particularly since all of us, some of us are grammar school Arabic students, some of us are high, and some of us may be in graduate school. But I'm an elementary school student right now on the Arabic, and those verbs are very important to me because they're the foundation of what it is that we are supposed to be doing as human beings. So I thought that was motivational. That description by Imam Muhammad has been more motivational for me in terms of keeping up our salat. I just wanted to point that out.
Alhamdulillah. Definitely appreciate that. And once again, that's a skill. I think that mindfulness, I think you just demonstrated that you're trying to feign, push yourself off, talking about elementary. That's a very scholarly observation. That's a part of our the blessing that Allah gives us in our practice of mindfulness, is to make these connections. So alhamdulillah, thank you so much for that. Walaikum assalam.
One of the things also that Imam Muhammad said, he said that when you hear the adhan, he said don't let another thought even come into your mind. You know, he said just let that be the trigger to get up and just go make your prayer. He said don't even let another thought come into your mind when you hear it. And what I also gained from this is make your when you hear the adhan, you go and make your wudu and let that be where you going to make your prayer, you know. And we have to also understand too that just because we have an intention, it's still up to Allah for us to. It's still up to Allah to be allowed to do that thing. You know, we could have an intention to go make our Asr prayer and not be able to make it and leave here. You know, so we have to. That's why we have to have good intentions all of the time and act on those good intentions all of the time, like immediately. Because if you don't act on the intention when the time comes, especially like for prayer, then it becomes like a plan. Mm-hmm. It's no longer like an intention. It becomes like part of a good plan. Mm-hmm. So we have to act on that good intention right away.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for that, Brother Shams. Appreciate that reminder. And I'll say this, I'll make a connection, kind of use a boxing metaphor. Well, not boxing, just sports in general. And that is the idea of muscle memory. And, you know, that is, you know, you practice a thing enough so that when you're in the actual situation, that you respond, you respond without thinking. So the intent, like I think about boxing, they learn, as a boxer, you learn how to recognize punches, right? You slip the jab, you move, your footwork, all of these things you practice over and over and over again, so that when it's time for you to use those skills, that it comes second nature. You don't have to think so much about it. So the intent, anybody who wants to become good at anything, and I'm just using boxing, you want to become a great boxer, you have to commit yourself to a series of actions. Our intention is to be the human being, individual and community, that Allah has intended for us to be. And we have to commit to a series of actions. And one of those things is our salat, right? So the intention behind that is it's rooted in an outcome. It's kind of mentioned earlier. And the responding to prayer, I love that it's been brought up, multiple times. This is a part of developing that spiritual muscle memory, so that, you know, you hear the adhan, you get right to it. If it goes off on your phone, you stop what you're doing, you get right to it. And then when we find ourselves having to make serious decisions, to think about things, we automatically go back to that. We automatically go back to Allah, right? So everything, in a sense, has the capacity of becoming an adhan of sorts, right? You know, it's a much broad application of the idea of not just coming to preparing ourselves for the ritual of prayer, but calling ourselves towards the act of demonstrating what that prayer actually means, right? So our situational life, it allows us to tap into that spiritual muscle memory, but Allah gives us the prayer itself to build it. So yeah, thank you so much, Brother Shams, for that. Yeah, you got me thinking. I'm ready to get on a roll. I'm gonna restrain myself. Anybody you want to have any other comments, brief comments before we close out? Okay. Well, I sincerely appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate the discussion, your contributions. I pray Allah allows us to be the best of individuals and the best of communities. That Allah keeps our intentions pure. Allah allows us to respond to His call and His call only. And Allah helps us to make each other better, inshallah. I want to remind everybody that if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, to do so. Masjid Al-Taqwa Chicago on YouTube. This Taleem, as well as our previous Jumas, can be found there. Please do feel free to share those. We want to get our numbers up, inshallah, as we work to be that model community, inshallah. So we're going to close with Surah Al-Asr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. And assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.